Today is Wednesday, July 16th, 2025, and it is Yom Re'i, fourth day of the week. 20th day of Tammuz. 5785, Parshat Pinchas. This is the PL-89 calendar. A lunar solar calendar, which also has the Julian calendar. It's based on the orbit of planet Mercury, and it also has Earth in mind as well. And I've been working on this calendar since the year 2012. It will turn 13 this late summer. And I'm starting to make daily presentations of the PL-89 calendar. I usually explain about it, but I'll skip those explanations because of today. It's an important day and I'll get straight to the point. As far as I present a new idea of it every day. And the idea of it today is the idea of the perihelion and the aphelion. And if you're not familiar with those words, well, neither was I until recently, but I had the idea of it, and I think I knew perihelion, but I wasn't sure what it meant. But the idea of it, I knew what it was, but I verified it today, is any planet's orbit, when it's closest to the sun, it's called the perihelion. And when it's furthest away from the sun, it's called aphelion. And I read, and it didn't make a lot of sense to me, but I guess it's correct because I read it, but or maybe it's not correct, but that the Earth's aphelion, the perihelion, is in January, and the aphelion is in July. That's what I read. It would seem that in the summer it's closest to the sun, but it's actually, according to what I read, it's the opposite. So this is a lunar solar calendar. It takes into consideration the solar calendar, which is the Gregorian or secular or Christian calendar, and that was made in 1582 as a reform to the Julian calendar. And it also holds the Julian calendar in balance together with it. And the moon is the Jewish calendar, the Hebrew calendar. I think the Islamic calendar goes by the moon as well, except it doesn't have something to hold it in place, a leap year, so it's constantly moving across the different seasons. So today on the PL-89 calendar, we're on the very last box number 40. Box number 40 is the 20th day of every cardinal month. Cardinal month, you might not be familiar with that term, but the cardinal month means the first month or the strongest month of the season. And in Hebrew astrology or in Hebrew halachic matters, it's called the Tekufa of Tammuz, which we're in right now, the Tekufa of Tishrei, which is Rosh Hashanah, that starts that quarter of the year. The next quarter is the Tekufa of Tevet is the winter season, and then the Tekufa of Nisan, which is the spring. So right now, we are in the Tekufa, meaning the season, a 3-month period. And a 3-month period is what this is. This is a 3-month period. Actually, from here to here is 80 days. And then this calendar holds 10 invisible days, which are not here, but they're officially part of the calendar, but they're invisible days known as the 10-day twilight period. On this calendar, within this dispensation, this last box here, box number 40, represents the 20th day of Tammuz. It's the 20th day also of July, because it's lunar and solar. It's the 20th day of October. It's the 20th day of Tishrei, the 20th day of Tevet, the 20th day of January, 20th day of Nisan, the 20th day of April. But now, since so basically, the reason why it's called the Mercury calendar is that this is based on the revolution of the planet Mercury, which is about this time. 87 point something of our Earth days is how long it takes, according to published data, of Mercury to go around the sun. So that's why it's called a Mercury calendar. So this is basically, it's taking an Earth year and squishing 4 quarters into 1 year and making this the composite year that's only 90 days, and it applies to each season. So it's a Mercury thought calendar because the purpose of it is to connect ideas and thoughts within time, and ideas and thoughts that happen in time. And the idea, as I said, as I started this video, that I wanted to present today is the perihelion and the aphelion. Perihelion is when a planet is closest, closest. Perihelion is when a planet is closest to the sun. Peri means close, and helio means like sun. Perihelion. And aphelion means when a planet is furthest away from the sun in its orbit. So, the ideas come into play since this is a lunar solar calendar, and the boxes represent the sun and the moon, and planet Mercury, and the Julian calendar. So, like I said before, the 20th day of every month is going to be on this box right here, 40. And the moon is the Jewish calendar, and today on the Jewish calendar, we are on the, this is the Jewish calendar, 20th day of Tammuz, that's the moon, that's the moon, not the sun, the moon. The sun is July 16th. Today is July 16th, Wednesday, July 16th, 2025. And that box is represented here in box number 6. Okay? It's plus 4. Okay? 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 16th is box 6. And 20th is box 40. And why it's box 6 and why it's 40 and why all these numbers, like it's 6, 14, 23, 31, and 40. Why it's that, I can explain a different time. But suffice it to say for now, that the 6th. Now, if you notice, I mentioned the Julian calendar. The Julian calendar is 13 days before the Gregorian calendar. This is based on the Julian calendar, the Gregorian reform on February 24th, 1582, by Pope Gregory XIII. On the Julian calendar, it's 13 days, it's a minus 13, and then the Julian plus 13 is the Gregorian. So J plus 13 is G, and G minus 13 is J. Okay? So if today, like I said earlier, in the moon, and I applied the Julian formula to the Hebrew and to the Gregorian both. If the moon, Tammuz, is at 40, then if you subtract 13 boxes, you're going to come to box number 9. So what do you have? You have 40 and 9. Hold that thought for a moment, please. And then, like we said before, July 16th, the sun is in box 6. But if you subtract 13 boxes, you're going to come to box number 15. So today is both July 16th, and you can say it's July 3rd. It's Wednesday, July 16th, and it's Thursday, July 3rd, right now. Holds them together. Holds them in one thought. Today is the 20th day of Tammuz, and it's the 7th of Tammuz, together, right now. Yom Revi'i, 4th day of the week, 20 Tammuz, it's also the 7th of Tammuz. Hold that thought. So what do you have with the solar? You have 40 and 9, right? 40 and 9. But look at them. They're very far away from each other. Very far away. They're 13 days apart. That would represent an aphelion, where the sun is far away from the moon, so to speak, or the two parts are far away from each other. I mean, they're both the moon. Not one is the sun, not one is the moon, but they're far away from each other. But why that's interesting is that when you go up to this portion of the calendar, in row number 1, 2, 3, in row number 5, you have those same numbers, 40 and 9. But in this part of the calendar, in this hemisphere, or in this, they're right next to each other. Over here, they're 13 days away. It doesn't happen that way with every single number. It happens every few numbers. It happened a few days ago, maybe 4 days ago or something like that, where, yeah, I remember now, yeah, it was like 29 and 38. And then up here, they were close to each other. So they're far away right here. It didn't happen the next day. It didn't happen the day after that. Maybe every 4 days it does that. So again, the idea is that two numbers are very far away now, and over here in this part, they're next to each other. So it's like a perihelion here and an aphelion over here. And someone who knows basic arithmetic, or maybe a little bit more than that, maybe more advanced arithmetic, would be able to explain why it does that, based on the number of boxes, based on the counting sequence. It's based on 8 plus 9. It's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It goes 8 plus 9 plus 8 plus 9. The cutoff is 40. You have two 40 square boxes, 40 box squares. And if you put all those inputs into the calculator, you'll be able to understand, probably. I can't explain it myself, but you'll understand why they're far away here and they're very close over here. One thing I didn't mention, it's not only with the moon that way. The sun is the same thing. Today we're on box number 6, and 13 days away, it's going to be 15. But when you go to this hemisphere, look at this. 6 and 15 are right next to each other. Here's the 13 boxes away. Here they are right next to each other. Now, again, I said through simple arithmetic, you could probably explain why that is. You put in all the amount of rows, the amount of columns, the sequence number which you count, and then you'll say that every amount. But if you understand what each number means, what a 6 is and what a 15 is, what a 40 is and what a 9 is, then that's what I'm concerned about. That's what my exploration is. Why is it that this time, now it's a thought calendar, which means when you're thinking, when I'm thinking, whoever would use it is using it to think about what's going on right now. Now, at this point in the calendar, I can tell you exactly where we were. We were right before Shavuot. Right before Shavuot, 40 was right next to 9. And right before Shavuot was when it hit 26. This is Shavuot here. And Shavuot, and then it was also here. So the question is, why is it that on Shavuot, that's a Jewish holiday, the Festival of Weeks, 7 weeks after Passover, the giving of the Torah, the law, etc., cheesecake, you know the drill, or maybe not, but people have a custom to eat cheesecake now. But it happens to be that I had some pizza today, so that's an interesting connection to cheesecake, dairy. But anyway, why is it that on Shavuot, 40 was right next to the 9, and right now that we're in the middle of 3 weeks, they're very far away from each other? Okay, that's one thought. And back during Shavuot time, on the solar calendar, 6 was right next to 15. June, it's the end of May, so June 2nd was 32. This is Shavuot, so it'll be like June, like May 28th, 29th, May 29th, May 30th, that area. What is it that makes them close and now far away? That's my inquiry. I don't know the answer, but maybe by explaining this question and this type of observation, I've perhaps given some explanation of what this calendar is meant to do. And then something else is interesting today. That today is in the Daf Yomi. I forgot to mention that the Daf Yomi numbers, the number of the page of Daf Yomi is very important to this calendar, and it's also factored in in its calculation. Now, today is in the Daf Yomi learning program. It's 28 Avodah Zarah, page 28, which is really only the 27th page because it starts from page 2. That's important also. But this page number 28, and the number is very important because we're page number 28. That means thousands upon tens upon maybe hundreds of thousands of people, whoever learns the Daf, are all thinking the same thing. I'm very fascinated with that one idea called collective uniformity, or collective being in sync, where millions of people, let's say, think about one number on one day. Daf Yomi is a very good system or phenomenon or reality for that, because you have tens, maybe now hundreds of thousands of people worldwide that, based on the date, are all thinking about one number. Everyone who learns Daf Yomi on Wednesday, July 16th, is thinking, wherever they are in the world for this day, the number 28. And that's also an aspect of this calendar. It's called the thought calendar. What were we all thinking on this day? What were we all thinking? We all have this in common. I can read your thoughts, so to speak. That in 2 weeks, if you're still, God willing, me also, everybody still alive, in 2 weeks we will all be thinking about this one exact number. And also 2 years ago, since we all learned the same thing together, we all thought the same number on March 8th, 2022. For example, this came to mind as when we started Tractate Yevamot. It was Women's Day, National Women's Day or something, International Women's Day. And that's when we started Yevamot. It's interesting that Women's Day, we started with Seder Nashim. But everybody started Yevamot Bet on March 8th, 2022. Or March 9th. I think it was March 8th though. But it was around there. And so what's interesting about that is that today we're on 28 of Avodah Zarah, and this is the day that in America's Daf Yomi they're making a siyum. 7.5 years ago on this Daf, it came out actually February 12th, if I'm not mistaken, of 2018, which was the 27th day of Shvat, I think, around there. So if you can get a feel for how everything was at that time, not just the page number, but get a feel for where were you at that time? What were you doing? Who were you talking to? Where were you living? What were you thinking? What were you wanting? What were you afraid of? What were you aspiring to? What were your greatest hopes? What were your greatest fears? Went a little bit off the rail there, a little too deep there, but the point is that all those things make up the thought space of that time. The characteristic, the flavor that was happening. I remember where I was exactly. I remember the general feeling of the time. 28 of Avodah Zarah. Now, this has a philosophy of numbers, that numbers mean things universally. What I mean is that 28 means something at some kind of eternal level. So if I say page 28, or if the score of the sports game was 28 to this, or if it's 28, weighs 28 grams, or if it's 28 this, any metric, or any type of anything that has to do with 28 minutes, or this or that, it's all the same 28. There's a way to spell Allen, A-L-L-A-N or A-L-A-N, one of the, I think it's A-L-A-N, it equals 28. Also, Allen is part of it. Meaning A is 1, B is 2. If you do that, Allen equals 28. And many words, word is, I is 9, and S is 19, it's 28. Everything that's 28 equals the same thing. So if we started Avodah Zarah, this Dafyom started Avodah Zarah at 28, it means something. And I'd like to show how it means something on this calendar. Today, Avodah Zarah 28 is the 2020th daf since we started of Brachos Beis. So today is the 2020 daf. 2020. Do you think about what 2020 was? 2020 was a major change on the earth. 2020 was when Corona came out. The world never was the same after that, on so many levels. And I just started talking about 2020, and we're in 20 minutes into this video. So you can see the kind of recursive, kind of singularity, continuum kind of thing. That's what it's based on. But 2020, today is the 20th day of Tammuz. Okay, so it's lining up. It's 20. It's the 20th. It's the 2020th daf of Shas. But look at this box. Over here, the final box of this month, there are two 40-day months, which makes 80 days. The end of this 40-day month is today, which is Tammuz 20, which is on box 40. But the end of the final box of this first 40-day month ends up on 20. So it's 2020 is today. But where does 28 come in? Directly above it, that makes the square. In this square, you have 28 right here, and you have 20 over here. 28th, and it's not like a random thing. It's on each corner. So if you go to each corner, it's very consistent. It's 20, 28, and then 8 and 40. This is 40, 20, 8, and 28. So you see it on these corners of the box, you're dealing with 28. It's a corner, it's like a pivotal thing. And 28 of Avodah Zarah happens on the same grid, the same line as the 20, which is 2020, today's the 2020 day of Daf Yomi. And the same thing happens over here, where it's 40, which is 20. So that's interesting too. And I'm trying to uncover, and I saw many things when you read about the construction of the Mishkan. And I remember clearly when we studied Ezekiel. Well, I saw so many Mecheskel today, but when we read Ezekiel, when he describes the third temple, it's very much similar to when we read about it in Exodus. And there were measurements of the walls or something in the Mishkan that was these. I remember the numbers. They were the same numbers. It was 20 amos this, and then 40 amos this. Same construction. So is there a connection between the geometric construction or fabrication or structuring of time and the Mishkan itself? Is the Mishkan something non-physical that happens within time? And that is another one of the purposes of the PL-89 thought calendar.